Hello. Welcome back. Shogun Episode 10 masterfully concluded the show and wrapped up the stories of all the main characters, raising the question of whether Yoshii Toranaga became shogun following his victory against Ishido. The critically acclaimed FX series was based on James Clavell's Shogun novel, which itself was inspired by the true story of Tokugawa Ieyasu. The major changes Japan went through at the end of the 16th century set the narrative for Shogun, whose finale confirmed Toranaga's goal was indeed to overthrow the regents and lead Japan into a new era. Yabushige, who committed seppuku for helping Ishido kill Mariko, was the only shogun character to hear from Toranaga himself about the full extent of his plan. While the battle between the forces of Toranaga and Ishido wasn't shown, Shogun's finale made it clear that Toranaga was going to win the war. John Blackthorne, whose story was based on William Adams, dreamt of returning home and growing old thinking of Mariko, but his ship was destroyed. Therefore, Blackthorne might never return to England. Shogun's bittersweet finale highlighted how complex of a character Yoshii Toranaga was. Lord Toranaga secretly sought to become shogun the whole time, as revealed by his conversation with Yabushige toward the end of Episode 10. Toranaga envisioned a period of peace for Japan in which there would be no wars over the control of the country, with him serving as the absolute military leader as the first true shogun in years. None of Toranaga's closest allies were aware of the true extent of his plan, which included defeating Ishido before the war even started. Toranaga's plan will succeed, and he will eventually become shogun. Lord Toranaga's character is based on that of Tokugawa Ieyasu, who, after the Battle of Sekigahara against Ishida Mitsunari, replaced the Council of Elders as the true ruler of Japan. Ieyasu originally had the support of the Taiko's heir and his mother, Yoshii-no-kata, but their influence on his rule was minimal. However, a few years after establishing his power as shogun, Ieyasu made a move against the heir, Toyotomi Hideyori. This attack ended with the heir committing seppuku and his mother becoming a nun. Yoshii-no-kata was the inspiration for Shogun's Ochiba-no-kata, whereas Ishido was based on Ishida Mitsunari. Lady Mariko's death in Shogun Episode 9 helped Lord Toranaga in many ways. Firstly, it brought instability to Osaka Castle and disrupted Ishido's power now that the daimyos realized he was keeping hostages. Without the support of some of the most powerful lords in the region, plus the inner conflicts within the Council of Regents, Ishido became much weaker after Mariko's sacrifice. Additionally, the death of Lady Mariko took a toll on Ochiba-no-kata. Mariko and Ochiba essentially grew up as sisters, and the former's demise led the latter to rethink her stance on the war. The scene in which Ochiba-no-kata read Mariko's poetry to her son demonstrated how much of an impact Mariko's death had on the heir's mother. Ochiba likely realized that it was not worth it to risk her son's life in a war against Toranaga, especially because the chances of Ishido winning were now much lower. Before she died, Mariko tried to convince Ochiba to support Toranaga, which ended up happening after all. With the heir on his side, it became easy for Toranaga to consolidate his power. Ishido arrived at the Battle of Sekigahara, having already lost the war. Lord Toranaga had John Blackthorne's ship burned at the end of Shogun. While Toranaga made it seem like a traitor Inajiro was responsible for it, the Lord of Kanto secretly acted so that Blackthorne would never leave Japan. The destruction of Blackthorne's ship was also part of a deal Mariko worked with the Portuguese in exchange for Anjan's life. Blackthorne's life would be spared, but he would never leave Japan. The Portuguese made sure the English Protestant would never bring his allies to Japan, whereas Toranaga got to keep his unusual ally close. According to Toranaga, he liked having Blackthorne around because the Anjin made him laugh. Additionally, Blackthorne helped create distractions for Toranaga. The Anjin created a lot of trouble as soon as he arrived in Japan, giving Yoshii more freedom to act while his enemies were focused on the barbarian and his ship. Both the Council of Regents and the Portuguese merchants were too busy worrying about Blackthorne to realize the Lord of Kanto was about to take over the country. Blackthorne believed he was using Toranaga, yet it was actually the opposite that was happening. Yabushige was one of the most interesting characters in Shogun. Loyal to no one but himself and fascinated with death, Yabushige was Shogun's wild card and met his end in Episode 10. After being exposed for conspiring with Ishido to orchestrate the attack on Osaka Castle, Yabushige was sentenced to commit seppuku. Toranaga served as his second, leading to arguably the most important scene in the whole show. Yabushige wanted to know the truth about Toranaga's plan, and since he was about to die, he got to hear everything from Toranaga himself.